Good morning, Peggy. Thank you for being here. You're the first one on. Just gonna set up the computer. That way I can follow everybody's comments. Thank you for being here this morning. We'll give it just a few more minutes, see if anybody else is gonna hop on. For those of you who are new, please let us know where you're watching from and say good morning. We'd love to meet you. So yeah, we'll just give it just a few seconds. I don't want to hold everybody up. And for some reason, not seeing the comments on the laptop, so I'll try to keep up on the phone. Hi, Sharon. Thank you for being here. Good morning. Hi, Linda. Great. Now we got some people jumping on. I might have been just like a tad bit early hitting the go live. Hi, Beth. Hi, Vesta. Hey, Linda. Great, there's quite a few on, so we'll get started. Welcome everybody. I am Julie Heights, the Chirpy Card Maker of Quilts, and I live in Toledo, Ohio, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I really enjoy combining my love of quilts and piecing quilt patterns with card making. It is so nice to be able to mix the two. And the good thing about making quilt cards is there's no seams to rip out. It's just paper, and they go together really, really quick. We're not focusing on a whole quilt. We're just focusing on one pattern and putting it into a card that we can bless our friends and family with. So, oh my goodness, we have some first-time lives. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad that you could catch it. Now on Wednesdays, I like to post a prep sheet, or I do a prep post for today. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut the paper together. And I actually don't have a sample of this card to show you because I am doing it with you. So if it all works out the way I've got it in my mind, will be good. I might find along the way I might have changed something, or I might have chose a different color or a different pattern. But this is what is really fun about doing these things together, is that we can bounce ideas off of each other and just play along. So I do not have a sample of this card. So while I am flipping the camera around, will you please, you can share this and invite more of your friends to watch along, but say good morning to each other. I just need to rearrange some things in my workspace. And I figured out my setup here, or I did. I just need to, well, it was all set up. Maybe when I flipped the camera. I tested it this morning. And what I needed to do was be able to swivel. Isn't it funny how this morning when I tested it, I was okay. And now, well, maybe that just really makes me mad because I had it all figured out and I thought for sure you weren't going to see my my mount here. It's like, why would it? In practice, there I got rid of most of it. I'm going to move the computer. Well, you know, I tried. I do not understand why I can't get back to my original way I had it. But from what I understand, I am not the only one who is having this issue. Never before were you able to see so much of my workspace in front of me. Let it go, Julie, let it go. I just like to have things perfect when I'm going live, and I don't like to waste your time while I'm trying to figure it out. So Louise and Karen, Lynn, Linda, Brenda, Debbie, Susan and Vesta, Anne, Betty, Jasmine, Marcia, Gail, you guys, thank you for being here. So, the paper that I am working with is from the new mini catalog that will go live here, in another week. And I just wanted to, I'll bring this bundle in as I show you. I want to show you the paper. This sheet right here, actually there are 2 dies in the bundle that will cut out the 2 birds, the 2 images here. So that's really nice if you are not a fussy cutter. Okay. There are more beautiful bird patterns here. I actually changed my mind for my embellishing of today's card. I used this little sparrow right here. And then here are more bird images. This sheet right here, if you cut it in half, and you'll have to take a little bit off, but you could get 3 card fronts from each side, making 6 cards if you wanted to. Here's another pattern with birds in it, and we have some pussy willows, and then when you turn the paper over, you've got some more really beautiful patterns, and I love the colors that they gave us to work with. But this is a beautiful collection of DSP. If you like birds like I do, you'll love this. And like I said, there are 2 dies that come with this that will cut out 2 of those images. So you could really go to town on that one sheet. And then there's this beautiful stamp set right here. Okay. So I just wanted to show that briefly. And let's go over what I had you prep. I am going to try to zoom in a little bit. This is really bugging me. Now it looks like my phone wants to nearly fall off. Okay, I just want to zoom in a little bit. There we go. That helps take that area that I don't want you to see out of there. So let's move the trimmer. And we're going to be making 2 cards. It's going to be the same design, but since you're going to be cutting, you're going to be getting into a sheet of cardstock anyway, you might as well cut 2 card bases. And that's what we're going to do with this. And then the sheets, or these pieces here that I had you cut, will cover everything you need for the 2 cards. So we have a 4x8 piece of designer series paper. This is going to be one of my backgrounds. And then we have a 2x8. This is going to be my other background. And then you've got a 4x12 that is going to be part of the front of the quilt block. It's also we're going to be cutting our inside piece. And the reason why I went with a light color is because I will want to eventually do just my stamping a sentiment on the inside of my card base, and you'll be able to see it on a light colored piece of Designer Series paper. We have this 1/2-inch square of cardstock. It does not become part of the card. It's going to help you with the template. And so it doesn't matter what color it is. I have a sentiment here. I use the word hope from Unbounded Love. And I changed my bird image to this little sparrow. And what inspired me was the saying, actually from a poem from Emily Dickinson, hope is a thing with feathers that perches in your soul. So that is what was in my mind for this card. And some of you are probably more familiar with that poem than I. I've always heard it, just the beginnings of it, and I went back and I read the poem several times, but not enough to memorize it. So, hi Cindy, who is on vacation, and she gets to watch live as it's happening. That's exciting. Hi Pam and Paula and Mary Ellen and Jean. Tony, thank you guys for sharing. So let's get into cutting the materials that we're going to need for your 2 cards. So bring in your scoreboard, whatever it is that you're using, because we're going to do some scoring first. With the 11-inch side along the top, we're going to score at 5.5 because we're actually going to be, our card bases are going to be the long and skinny card bases instead of, the regular. So we want to score it and have those cards scored in half at 5.5. Okay. And now move your paper, walking it back to 4.25. Okay. So you're scoring at 5.5 and 4.25. Now we're going to turn our cardstock so the 8.5 is across the top, and we're going to cut at 4.25, which is half of 8.5. So we have our 2 card bases, and we will burnish those in a moment. Let's continue with cutting. Let's bring in our 4x8 background. We're going to turn it so that the 8 inches is across the top, and we're going to cut it in half at 4. So now you have a background piece for each one of your cards. We're going to bring in that 2x8, and we're going to cut 4 2-inch squares. So turn it with the long side at the top and cut 4 2-inch squares. And 2 of these will be for each card. Okay, so you've got 2 of those. And off to the side here, I'm just putting my little stacks together. Hi, Marilyn. You have a necklace with the... Oh, my goodness. I bet that's beautiful. Let's bring in that 4x12. And we're going to cut 2 4-inch squares, because these are going to be on the inside of our cards. And just put them in your stacks. Now I want to cut a 2-inch strip. I'm going to turn it so that I can get 2 2-inch squares from it. And put 1 in each stack. And this leftover piece, We're going to put the 2 inches at the top and we are going to cut it down the middle. I'm a little bit shy on one end, but that's okay. It doesn't matter for what we're going to use it for. And I am going to cut it in half so I have 2 1-inch by 2-inch strips. And those will go in a stack. That's it. We're all done with cutting. Hey Jessica, you're in Maine? Oh my goodness, I want to go to Maine. I want to go to Maine to go birding and see the puffins on the coast. I would love to go to Maine, visit it. Thank you for being here while you're on vacation. Let's bring in our card bases. If you might not have guessed, this is a fun fold. We're going to fold it in half and give that score line a nice burnish. Do that for both of them. I chose black as my card base because I am a big fan of pink and black together. And I don't know, I don't think this is petal pink that's in here, but it reminds me of some petal pink. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a lighter shade of the copper clay. I really can't tell, but it speaks a type of pink to me. Kind of reminds me of the Blushing Bride ink that we had. So the front of your card, or your card bases, that second score line that we did, you're going to fold that back on itself. We're going to do the bookbinding fold and give that a crease. Again, open it like a book and fold it back on itself and give that a crease. So these are going to be our card bases. We're going to work on one and then you can go back and finish your other one on your own. Okay? Hi, Barbara. Hey, Marilyn. Thank you all for being here. Let's start out by creating our quilt block. So bring one of your stacks in. To make the quilt block, we're going to need your 4-inch square, your two 2-inch squares of this pattern, and the 2-inch square of your third pattern. Take your third pattern, find that little square of cardstock that you cut. That was a 1/2-inch square. And in the outer 4 corners, what I want you to do is I want you to put it up in the corners. I want you to take a pencil and I want you to just trace a line on the inner sides there. If you want to do the whole muscle memory thing, go ahead and just turn your square a 1/4 of a turn. And I'm having, I need to bring in another, you know what? I'll just bring, nope, that doesn't help me see it any better. Where's my silicone craft sheet? Well, I'll just try to make the best of it. All my papers are blending in really well together. And it's like, oh, I got to make sure that I'm in the 4 corners here. So I'll just pick it up. Make sure you're square. So this quilt block was inspired by quilt blocks that were called Signature Quilt blocks, where there was a space or an area of the quilt block that people could actually write on and sign. So that was what I was thinking when I did this, chose this paper here. I wanted to be able to either stamp on it. I decided not to stamp on it, but you could. But it was the inspiration from Signature Quilt blocks. Now take your snips and cut out your 4 corners. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is I am one who I like to eliminate as many seams as possible in my quilt cards so that it looks really nice, and I don't want to see the seams. I want everything just to blend into each other. So I could have made a 1-inch square, and then I could have had you cut 4 1/2-inch by 1-inch bars and just glued them around that 1-inch square, but then there's going to be seams. And what if we don't get our seams matched up really well? Well, doing it this way, we've just eliminated 4 seams on your quilt block, and it's going to look very, very smooth. Now I'm going to take a white eraser, and I'm just going to get rid of any pencil lines that were left behind. Although when we do our quilting, you probably won't see them anyway. Now, those little squares that you cut out, you could save those and use them somewhere in your card if you want to. And then have like no waste, but I am not really worried about that. So let me put it on this black. So here's what that 2-inch square is going to look like once you cut those 4 corners out. Oh, thank you, Linda. Kathy, my silicone mat is somewhere here on my craft space, and I think it's buried under something. And I don't know why I didn't grab this black cardstock to begin with, because look how well you can see what you're doing on it. Just one of those mornings where my brain's not really working on all cylinders, I guess. I'm not thinking quick enough. So set this aside. I'm going to flip this over because I'm going to just use it to work on. Bring in your 4-inch square, your background piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to put those 2-inch squares in opposite corners. And here's why the question was asked about the DSP and what direction it was. It doesn't really matter. Where it's going to matter is how you glue it down. If you're not paying attention and you've got a directional paper and you don't pay attention, see how this would be going sideways instead of matching up the other square. So this is what you need to pay attention to. And if your background square has a direction, make sure you've got it looking at you in the direction that you want it to be. So as far as cutting, no, there wasn't anything special, but you have to pay attention when we're putting it together. So I am going to turn this little guy back around, and now we're going to adhere those 2 squares to our background. We're basically, if we had cut all these squares individually, we would have needed a 4-inch piece of cardstock or something to glue them down to. But as long as I was going to have 2 matching squares, why not make 1 big square, eliminating more seams and eliminating cutting and worrying about if it's all going to line up or not. Just these little shortcuts can make a big difference and take a lot of things out of the process where you might find that you didn't cut right, or something just isn't lining up. So when we put those 2 blocks in those corners, you should be really close to meeting in the middle. But don't worry, because we're going to cover that up. So if your points aren't perfect, don't worry about it. Not this time anyway. So here's our 4 patch. Now that looks like a plus sign. that block that you cut. What you're going to pay attention to when you lay it down, because we don't have anything telling us exactly where it's supposed to land, but if you look at your lines and that you can see that you're about halfway between the two different pieces of designer series paper, you just want to look like we're centering it. And I'm just using these other lines to help me get there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue this down. And if this was a signature quilt block in fabric, I would have written a message and we would have sewn this into our quilt block. If you were going to stamp, I would suggest you did your stamping before you glue it down, because then if you make a mistake, you now have to start over with all of these pieces. And I am just using the black card base so that you can see what I'm doing. I haven't glued that down to anything yet. So there we have our quilt block. We don't have any seams here, 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 or across there that we had to match up. And by placing these two squares on a 4-inch square underneath it, we didn't have to match these lines up with anything. It just kind of took care of itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our quilt block. I'm going to take that 1-inch by 4-inch strip, and I am going to quilt these. So I'm going to step away from my workspace for just a second. There is a embossing folder that comes with this suite. But I'm not using it. I'm using the 3D Timber one, just so I think it works better. So I'm going to step away and I am going to quilt my strip, and I'm going to quilt the quilt block. Just take me a few seconds here. Okay. So here are my pieces. I just wanted to give it some texture. The 3D Timber is a really nice folder for that wood grain. And so this 1-inch strip is going to go in the binding part of our whoops, gotta turn it over. So this 1-inch strip is going to go on the book binding side of our card. And then our card base is already going to act as another border. Now, make sure when you glue it down that you didn't glue it down this way and now everything's sideways. Although I guess you could do a top fold book binding card if you want to get a little bit more creative. It's not ruined. You're just going to open it a different orientation, right? But I'm going to go back to this way. And you're going to glue those two pieces on. Now, if you wanted to wrap some ribbon around this strip, naturally you're going to do that before you glue this down. I am not. So I'm just laying it in there. I've got a nice even border on my 4 sides. And now I will adhere my quilt block. I also love this layout because for those people that, and I'm one of them, sometimes my fingers don't do well handling those little pieces. These pieces are nice and chunky, and you can hold on to them really well. and it'll make the process fun for you. And while we're adhering things, let's go ahead and put our inside. I don't know what I wanted to say yet. A lot of times with my cards, I don't stamp the insides because I'm not sure what the occasion is yet that it's going to go for. And now looking at this, it looks like these are just all little bird feet. But I'm going to pay attention to these lines, and I want to keep them horizontal. So this will be the inside. Before you seal this up, maybe you want to, this is where you want to put your ribbon. So you'd put the ribbon behind here, bring it around to the front, tie a bow, and then glue down that binding. Okay, I am not using any ribbon, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some adhesive in this area that was created, and now I'm going to close it, give it a press, and I'm going to seal it shut. Okay, so here's our book binding quilt block. I'm going to bring in my label here where I stamped the word hope on it. I'm going to put it right there in the middle. And again, here's my little sparrow that I chose to use. I think I'm going to kind of put them maybe right up here. And I'm going to pop these up on dimensionals. But I'm going to put a little bit of glue right here just to adhere these two together. And then I'll place dimensionals on the back. But I'm going to just put my layout here, just get it where I want it. Put my little bird. And now I'll flip it over and I will grab some dimensionals. I think I can fit one right there. Get out your minis if you have them too. And we'll just put one right there. And then I'm going to bring in some new gems. Okay, so here's my focal piece. And I just want to make sure I'm centered. Oh, do you guys hear poor Luther crying outside my window? I don't know. He's been doing that today, just talking and so there is my embellishment. Now looking at this, when I was picking out my designer series paper, I really didn't think that this color here was going to blend quite so much with my background. So maybe the next time I make the card, I will have a little bit more contrast. But I'm going to give myself some grace here because I like the softness in these colors. And sometimes you don't have to have that sharp contrast, but it might give me something to think about the next time. It just, you know, you're going with the colors that you picked out, you know, from your designer series paper. So, you know, depending on what those colors are, if they're all soft like the majority of these colors are, you might not have that strong, rich contrast. But other times, that's what I'm shooting for is, you know, some huge contrast. So there's our quilt block. Now I have seen this quilt block done with 3 different colors. In that case, you would have to put another square down, and you would be looking at matching up your seams. I don't think it's a big deal. You're going to cover up the one. But to first do it, I think just going with 2 different patterns is the easiest way to learn. And then you can get more creative by bringing more colors in. I am going to use, these are called Pecan Pie and Clear Ribboned Adhesive Backed Dots. What I love about them is there's no bulk to them. They don't stand really, really high. So that's what I love about them. And this Pecan Pie will bring in some of the rusty color that's in here from the copper clay. But in this case, Pecan Pie works. So I am probably, I don't know if I think I'm just going to put a few right along here on the binding, just to bring interest here, because I don't have a ribbon. So I want the eye not to just see a blank space here. So I think we'll do one of the big ones and a little one. Just a little bit of interest right here. You know what? I left myself some room. I wonder if I put another little one on that side, just to give it some shine. It could have been even higher up, but it just gives some interest. I should have gone up a little bit higher, or maybe I could have worked on the outside here. But all of the things that we find along the way when we're putting a card together, it's giving us more ideas to do it again, but change it up just a little bit. So I'll work on my other card, and I'm going to make a couple more because I always like to give some cards away. But I might change that up. Maybe this little guy here isn't, oh, good, he popped off. Because I don't know if I liked it right there. What if we put, could we put, I don't know here. It seemed to me like he was too close to the edge there. You could do a large one and 2 small ones right on top. Or maybe we could put one of these like over here and give some more interest to our label. I think I'll do that. I just moved it over to give a little bling in the center there. But this is the quilt block. Again, it was inspired by a signature quilt block used to sign and people would sign the blocks, like maybe it was going to be a quilt as a wedding gift, and people would sign the blocks. I've seen people make graduation quilts where they would have people sign a quilt block. So this area right in here would be where they would sign their name or write a message. So inspired by a signature quilt block, but the message that I see with this is with the word hope and the bird. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. So that is my card for today. So I hope you enjoyed it. I have been ecstatic about the participation over in the community group, Quilt Cards and More. There is so much sharing going on over there. Have you not been so inspired by everyone's mystery quilt blocks week to week? It's amazing. There's so many notes that I take when I see the little things that people have done with their quilt blocks that I want to remember in case I want to case an idea that I saw on their card. So thank you so much for the high participation over in the community group. You can request to join that by answering 3 simple questions, and then you can just absorb all of that inspiration and creativity that's going on over there. So this is today's quilt block, and I can't wait to see what your quilt blocks look like, how you jazzed up your card, what little things you added to make it your own, and that you can inspire us. So thank you for spending your Thursday with me. Oh, I want to give away. So let's see. The keyword will be hope. So if you would like a chance to win a card from today's live, then type the word hope in the comments. I will also give away some cards for those who get to catch the replay. So if you're watching the replay later, put hope replay or replay hope. That way I know where you came in on to win a card. But once I end this live, then I will draw 2 names, and they will be the first 2 winners, and then there will be 2 more winners when you get to catch the replay, and I will announce those names over the weekend. A PDF will post over the weekend for this card. It's very simple. I don't think you're going to have any troubles just going back to the prep post, watching the live. You can create this without a PDF, but if you like to collect the PDFs to add to maybe a binder that you have, look for that to drop on the weekend. Okay, so thank you so much for being here this morning, and I will be checking out the group to see what your creations look like. Everybody have a very blessed day, and I'll be talking to you soon.